There are moments in life when time stops, not because of beauty or love, but because of betrayal so sharp it cuts through the soul. She thought she was clever, thought she had hidden her secret behind distance and excuses. But the truth has a way of revealing itself, and sometimes it doesn't whisper, it crashes, cruel and undeniable. That night, their eyes met across a crowded room where she swore she'd never be. In that instant, every lie unraveled, every promise shattered, and the quiet storm of betrayal consumed everything they once built together. In a small, sunlit neighborhood where life appeared ordinary, there lived a woman named Lena. To anyone passing by, she was the image of devotion, polite smile, warm gestures, a presence that soothed. Her husband, Marcus, was the steady figure in her life. He was kind, perhaps too kind, carrying himself with the quiet dignity of a man who believed in fairness even when the world around him rarely was. Marcus worked long shifts at the hospital, not as a doctor, but as a technician who kept machines running, the heartbeat of systems that never slept. He was respected, though not celebrated, because his role was invisible compared to surgeons and physicians. But for Lena, or at least for what she once felt, Marcus was more than enough. Their marriage began with fire, like most do. Long walks, whispered dreams, small rebellions against the world's weight. They had built a modest life together, a small house, a second-hand car, a routine that seemed unshakable. On Sundays, Marcus cooked, humming old blues songs while frying eggs. On weekday mornings, Lena folded his shirts, making sure they smelled of lavender. Yet beneath this calm rhythm, a tension quietly brewed. Lena, though outwardly content, carried a gnawing restlessness. She had always dreamed of more, not more money, necessarily, but more excitement, more recognition, more freedom from the smallness of their life. She longed for moments that could lift her out of ordinary, if only for a breath. That restlessness became dangerous the day she reconnected with someone from her past, Daniel. He wasn't extraordinary by any external measure, but he carried a certain charm, the kind that made Lena feel seen in ways Marcus's tired eyes sometimes did not. Daniel worked in an industry where image mattered, advertising campaigns, networking events, late-night parties in places Lena had only glimpsed from afar. To Lena, Daniel was a reminder of a life that could have been. A life unbound by routine. The setting of their betrayal began not in a hotel room or whispered phone calls, but in the silence of Lena's dissatisfaction. She began telling Marcus she was volunteering late at community centers, staying with friends overnight to help with projects, or attending book clubs. In truth, she was slipping into Daniel's world, expensive drinks, neon-lit spaces, music that dulled guilt. And yet, life at home continued. Marcus, though perceptive, did not push. He sensed Lena's distance, her half-hearted smiles, her distracted gestures. He assumed it was exhaustion, maybe even depression. He told himself she needed space. He gave her the benefit of the doubt because that was who he was, a man taught to endure quietly, especially in a society where his dignity was already questioned daily because of the color of his skin. Marcus carried the weight of injustice silently. At work, patients sometimes assumed he was a janitor, not the skilled technician who saved machines from failure. At stores, clerks followed him as if theft lingered in his pockets. And yet, he never brought this bitterness home. He wanted Lena to see only the good in him, the man who rose above prejudice with grace. But betrayal does not wait for fairness. It grows in the shadows, feeding on neglect, on unspoken dissatisfaction, on temptation wrapped in opportunity. Lena had convinced herself she wasn't doing real harm. She told herself Marcus would never know. She justified that her small escapes didn't erase the years they had shared. But lies are never harmless. They're cracks in glass, waiting for the right pressure to shatter. The pattern deepened. Lena found herself slipping further into Daniel's orbit, intoxicated by how alive she felt in his presence. With him, the nights seemed brighter, conversations sharper, laughter louder. He told her she was beautiful, ambitious, too extraordinary to be hidden in routine. And though a part of her knew his words were rehearsed, she clung to them as if they were gospel. Her betrayals became bolder. She borrowed Marcus's car under excuses of errands, driving instead to meet Daniel. She spent money they didn't have on dresses she never wore at home. She disappeared on weekends, claiming sudden commitments. Each lie stacked upon the last, building a fragile tower that trembled with every passing day. Marcus, meanwhile, began to notice. He wasn't naive. He saw the way Lena's eyes avoided his, the way her phone never left her side, the faint perfume that wasn't hers lingering on her clothes. But his first instinct wasn't anger, it was self-blame. Was he not enough? Had the long hours, the fatigue, the weight of fighting a world that disrespected him, dulled his ability to love her fully? Yet Marcus didn't confront her. He lived with silent suspicion, carrying it alongside the racial injustices he faced daily. Betrayal layered over injustice, compounding pain upon pain. He had always endured. Now he endured the quiet possibility that the person he trusted most had chosen someone else. The injustice wasn't only in Lena's betrayal, it was in the cruel irony that Marcus had always fought to be respected in a society that diminished him, and now he was diminished in his own home. Betrayal struck him where prejudice had left him most vulnerable. His dignity, his worth, his right to love and loyalty. The rising tension reached its peak the night of a company gala. Daniel's firm was hosting a lavish event at a downtown hotel, the kind of event Marcus would never have been invited to. Lena told Marcus she was spending the night with a friend to plan a community project. Marcus didn't question her, though his heart tightened with unease. That night, while repairing a machine at the hospital, Marcus's coworker mentioned the gala. Curious, Marcus passed by after his shift, not with suspicion, but with simple weariness. He needed a place to walk, to think. The hotel lobby glowed with chandeliers, laughter spilling into the streets. And it was there, amid the swirl of dresses and tuxedos, that Marcus's world collapsed. He didn't intend to find her. He didn't plan to walk into betrayal. But fate is merciless. As Marcus stepped through the doors, his eyes scanned the glittering crowd. And then, there she was. Lena, radiant in a dress he had never seen, standing beside Daniel. They weren't holding hands, but the closeness was unmistakable, the intimacy of two people who had crossed lines long ago. And then it happened. Their eyes met. It was not just recognition, it was revelation. In that single moment, every excuse Lena had made collapsed. Every lie she had told burned to ashes. Marcus's gaze was not angry, not yet. It was hollow, emptied of the trust he had carried for years. Lena's face drained of color. She hadn't expected him there. She hadn't prepared for the moment when fantasy would collide with reality. For weeks, she had lived in two worlds, one of duty, one of desire. But in that instant, both worlds shattered. Marcus turned, not in rage but in silence, walking away from the glittering hall that had exposed the truth. And that silence was worse than any scream. Lena followed, rushing through the streets, her heels striking against the pavement. But when she caught up, Marcus didn't stop. He didn't confront her. He didn't demand an explanation. The betrayal was written too clearly. The climax of betrayal wasn't in shouting matches or violent outbursts. It was in the stillness of Marcus's grief, the quiet resignation of a man who had given everything: loyalty, patience, forgiveness, only to be discarded. The racial injustice of Marcus's life compounded the weight of this moment. In a world that already told him he was less, Lena had confirmed the lie in the one place he believed he was safe: his marriage. Betrayal, when mixed with injustice, doesn't just break hearts. It erases a man's sense of being seen at all. The days that followed were heavy with silence. Lena tried to explain, to justify, to weep her way into forgiveness. But Marcus had nothing left to give. Trust, once fractured, doesn't rebuild overnight. Love, once betrayed, doesn't return with the same innocence. He didn't scream. He didn't curse. He simply moved through the house with a distance that spoke louder than words. Eventually, he packed his things not in anger, but in mourning. Lena was left in the home they once shared, surrounded by the quiet reminders of a life she had destroyed. The lavender scent on his old shirts, the hum of blues songs he no longer sang, the empty chair at the kitchen table, all ghostly remnants of what betrayal had cost her. For Marcus, the path forward was unclear. Betrayal had marked him deeply, but it had also forced him to see that survival meant letting go. He had endured racial prejudice his entire life, but he would not endure betrayal in silence forever. He chose dignity, even in heartbreak. And perhaps that is the deepest wound betrayal leaves behind. It robs not only love, but also the belief that love is safe. The impact lingered beyond their marriage. Friends who once envied Lena's stability now whispered about choices and consequences. The community that once saw Marcus as quiet strength now watched him carry himself with even greater resilience, though with a shadow in his eyes. The story of Lena and Marcus is not unique. Betrayal comes in many forms, layered over injustices the world already inflicts. It asks the cruelest question: how much pain can a human heart endure before it refuses to break again? And so the story ends not with forgiveness, not with reconciliation, but with a truth that resonates for anyone who has ever been betrayed. When trust is shattered, love may survive in memory, but it rarely survives in reality. So I ask you, if the person you trusted most broke your heart in the deepest way, would you fight to rebuild, or would you walk away to protect what dignity you still had left?